بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم ألهمنا مراشد أمورنا وأعذنا من شرور أنفسنا. The Kitab al-Fitan, as we explained many a time, every narration of this chapter doesn't refer to any one particular era, but such wording was used that it was going to give an usul, a principle that could be applied to every era. And people, when they would see the narration, they would say that this is really what is happening in our time. And another man in another town will say the same thing, and another man in another era will say the same thing. There are certain times in Islamic history where you can find, like, right till the point, the narration fitted the picture. And there are other times where you will find it fits part. This is a unique meaning of the narrations, that it helped in every era. So the narration we will discuss today is regarding Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he spoke about when fitan will become very, very, very apparent in the world. Tazharul fitan. The narration starts with the wording yataqarabu zaman, when time will come closer and closer together. And in every era, people had a method of explaining these narrations. At one time it was explained that when barakah, blessings, will be taken out of time, then a lot of time will pass and very little work will get done. That's what you will call, like, time is becoming very small. The weeks are just passing, and people would normally speak like that. And another meaning that could be taken from the narrations, but that only started when the world changed in the method of transport. That in the Arabic language, time is used to show distance. Because at that time they never have something called kilometers and meters. Rather it would say a journey of 3 days, a journey of 10 days. So that amount of time was called how many kilometers. Nowadays we say it takes so many kilometers, because now we can measure it with that. On those times there was time. Time was the measurement of a journey. So a 3-day journey, what we speak today, 88, 77 kilometers. At that time they never had a word like that. That time it was easier to say a journey of 3 days, 100 kilometers. So a journey of 1 month. So it will be 3 times 10 times 3. And like that you will carry on. Yataqarabu zaman. So if that meaning is taken time, then we know when the transport system in the world changed, then what was once upon a time a journey of 1 month was going to become a journey of a week. It was going to wrap up. That how long it took me to get to visit you in the past, now I will make it in a week. And the journey of the week became the journey of a day. The journey of the day became, I'll get there in 5 minutes time. In the past, if someone said, I have to make a journey of 1 day, 30 kilometers. And in today's time, he'll say, I'll make the journey of 1 day in 5 minutes. So yataqarabu zaman, when time will start becoming smaller. And it's not going to stop. Every day that effort is being made in the world to make the journey even faster. Because we know there is something called traffic in the world. So how to get around that traffic? Because with so much of speed in the cars, but if traffic comes, you can't go anywhere. Unless you're a taxi. Taxi can go. But the rest of us, we stuck. But that effort is going to be made that at the time when it's necessary, that car can lift up. And it got permission, now you just fly low. So you beat the traffic. That also will be made. And efforts will be made that you come to a certain, like a tunnel. And once you enter the tunnel, you can go at such a speed from one point to the other. You go on. They're doing that. A lot of effort is being made with time now, meaning journeys can be made even shorter, even shorter. And then you have those jets, you have the faster planes. Every day it's to be able to become closer and closer. Yataqarabu zaman. But how the narration started, this is like nothing bad. This is like a good thing. Because Islam always wanted you save time. So if you can get closer and closer time, it's a very good thing. That why waste time? Now I can go to that country, I can go to that country. But the narration started it to show like an alamat. The more you will see time being wrapped up, the bigger the fitna is going to get. The more you will see time being wrapped up. When the first steam train came, how happy people were. That now it will not take so long for us to go on the grounds, to go on the waters. Steam was created. And with it came all that fitan that came after, that wars that came after, that evil that came after, which man never thought about. So when an alamat was put, the faster you will see you moving, the more quicker you're going to see what comes after. يَتَقَارَبُ الزَّمَانِ وَيُقْبَدُ الْعِلْمُ. And the second was when knowledge will be snatched. That we explained previously also, that the best mazhar of this wording of the narration, and it comes in a narration, they ask, how can knowledge be snatched? Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, بِقَبْضِ الْعُلَمَاءِ. When ulama will be taken out of the world. So after World War I, World War II, the world saw it. And from there it never stopped. In South Africa you don't see this, but this is not a Muslim country. But in the Muslim countries whether you're going to see it or you would hear it, people on the ground know that anyone who stood in opposition to the leaders, they no longer existed. It was one night, whether it was in Ramadan or out, whether it was 27th, in front of all the musallis. It was just a police force comes in, grabs hold of a person, and he's gone, never to be heard of after. وَيُقْبَضُ الْعِلْمِ. It happens, and it happened in the past in very huge numbers, and it will continue happening. وَيُقْبَضُ الْعِلْمِ. And that's happening till today. Wherever there is a alim who's ready to speak out the truth in those countries, then no longer he's that alim after that. It just goes quiet. يُقْبَضُ الْعِلْمِ. وَتَظْهَرُ الْفِتَنِ. So that alamat was when time will be wrapped up. The faster you will go, the more the fitan is going to come. So tazharul fitan, one meaning of fitan is like immodesty. So that no one can even ask, like, are we in that era? We definitely in that era. There's nothing left of clothing. And lesbianism and homosexuality, these are like words which are normally, we have reached that level where now those people say it's our right to be this here. And the one who looks at it like, how you can do it, he's the criminal. He became the criminal. But that was not the only meaning of fitan. Fitan meant trials, when trials will become so apparent. With this corona, the whole world is, and look at this word, tazharul fitan. Zuhur means when something becomes very apparent, nothing is hidden. How do you make something apparent? Like that one narration that came, that at that time, it's not a word of hadith, but it had come in the previous scriptures, at a time where the prostitutes will do their prostitution in front of so many people. Now you would wonder, like, a prostitute is there, maybe she'll walk in front of people, but to do it? And then if you also thought about, like, will a prostitute do her act, okay, maybe she'll call 5 people who all pay her extra, say, I don't want to do something with you, I only want to see it. So 5 people, 10 people, but an-nas, where it would have ever been thought in the world a prostitute will be able to do her act. And an-nas, meaning people in huge amounts will be looking at it. But then television was created. And when that was created, whether that woman wants to call herself prostitute or not, the act that she's doing, she's getting paid for it. So the one on the streets gets paid 50 rand, and she gets paid 50,000 rand. But in the ending, you are well paid prostitute, that's all. She does that act, and an-nas is looking at that. And she is happy about it, an-nas. So the tazharul fitan zuhur. How does fitna become apparent? Once upon a time we would have thought that it happened there, I saw it. But look at the narration, it was going to get even more apparent. So then the internet came, then nothing was hidden. That was tazharul fitan. Any trial, tribulation happening anywhere in the world, Me in my small town of Azadwal, I'll also know what's happening. Not only will I get the message, sometimes I'll be able to see what's happening also. Tazharul fitan. When trials and tribulations will just become more and more and more apparent. Once upon a time, if someone was suffering in one part of the world, no one would know. But zuhur of it will take place to such an extent that even in one small classroom, if something is happening, one trial, that thing will go around the world. You call it, it went viral. That's one translation of what tazharul fitan. Anything that happens and it goes out so fast, tazharul fitan, zuhur fitan. So when fitna becomes very zahir, it has its good parts and it got its bad parts. Its good parts is that Muslims around the world can understand what's happening to other Muslims. And it creates that, let's do something. That's very good. And the bad part is sometimes it creates that sense of like, just now there's no hope left. This is the end. Once upon a time you would hear if a karguzari came and someone said, I went to this place very hard. And the ulama would tell him that, you know what, be positive when you speak. Because halat, conditions have always come in the world. But if his bayan never took place or you never heard it, the town people would never even know something was happening. But in today's time when that it goes virally shown, sometimes more than giving a good result, it gives the opposite. That sense of fear and panic comes in everyone. Tazharul fitan. So one is that immodesty, which we are living in that era where it's everywhere. But one is the other meaning of that fitan, trials, when it will become more and more apparent. That everyone will see it. What happens when you see so many problems too often? You just put on your phone and you're having your breakfast and you see, in Lenasia, 11 people passed away. 11 people passed away many times also in Lenasia perhaps. There was a car accident and 11 died one day. But no one saw it. But at the present time, you'll hear one person say, hey, you know what? In this town, so many died. They say, in this town, so many died. In this town, so many died. The poor food can't digest after that. Even if you ate egg that day, ask the person, how are you feeling? He say, I feel nauseous. The reason is because you got so much of news that made you sad that your body is not going to manage to keep anymore. When they said we are suffering at the moment with one malady in the world which is called depression, everyone is closed up. No one got a hope to live anymore. A person just hears, I'm coughing. Once upon a time he would hear like maybe there's cancer and you would see he would start going down. We're living in a time where a person just coughs now. And immediately his whole thing starts going down. He loses himmat, courage immediately. Tazharul fitan. And it's not going to end here. It's going to get even bigger and bigger. The faster that we go in time. When the next car comes out and it says we go to 300, then you must know that the fitna is also going to 300. The faster time will go, the more it's going to go. Tazharul fitan. Yulqa ash-shuh. And then when greed, shuh means you want to hold on to whatever you got. It's always man's nature. Man has always had this greed. But we all know in history such examples were showed where people were able to give lot, although they had nothing. And then the era came where we got lot, but we give nothing. How it changed. And that even your own father will say he saw the era where the houses were small but the hearts were big. And they had hardly anything, but everyone would come and you sleep here and you sleep there and someone's in the kitchen sleeping. And then the whole thing changed. That halat changed to a very big extent. That one family at that time had to live 3 families in one house. And now one family with 3 houses. This is that one we just use once a month, once a week, for 1 week in the year. But we just keep it, you know why this family goes and that family goes, it's a good investment. So good investments means that once upon a time, if the whole family lived in there. Now the one family lives everywhere. But when all that opened up, that greed also came. Yulqa ash-shuh. Now when the man got 4 houses, and he only uses a part of one house. And he's asked, what about the other 3? Even if he hears his sister at the moment got no place to live, he will just go into his slack. But if I put her there, will she pay the rental? What happens after a few months if I need the place? Will she go out? In the ending, say, rather, you know what? Let's not talk. Yulqa ash-shuhhu. And that happened in the world, where so much came, but nothing started going. Yulqa ash-shuhhu. Look at that wording. Yulqa means it will be pushed down the throat of people. Yulqa ash-shuhhu. That's what we're living in. And finally, وَيَكْثُرُ الْحَرَجِ. That's why I wanted to narrate this hadith. And when haraj will become very, very prevalent. So they asked, what is this haraj with the small ha? Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, al-qatlu. Another narration, he said, such a time will come where the qatil, the killer, will not know why he's killing. He's just killing. And the one being killed, he won't know why he's being killed also. There'll be a lot of killing taking place. And one narration said the killer and the one being killed, both of them will be Jahannami. One meaning is either both might be Muslims, but the Muslims will have so much of hatred for each other that each one wants to kill the other. So whether you killed or you were intending to kill but you got killed, you both Jahannami. But then it means not forever and ever. Another meaning will be that the killer will also be non-Muslim. And the one killing also, normally you would have understood the non-Muslim will kill the Muslim. The time will come where he's not going to be killing Muslim only, he'll kill his own people also. So the killer and the one being killed, he's also Jahannami. In between there will be Muslims killed also. Where will this narration be? As I told you, it could be anywhere. One is in the world wars, we saw it. In the world wars, none of those soldiers knew why they're fighting the war. The country never knew why they're fighting. At the end of the war, the country itself was bankrupt because they had to buy so much of weapons who were also selling weapons to the other country. Both were bankrupt. Up till today, they're trying to investigate what started World War. So they'll say that one man was assassinated. One man. So many killed. The qatil, the killer never knew. The maqtul never knew. It was just bombing. Al-qatlu, open killing. But that was when killing was known. Both Jahannami, they're not bothered whether Muslim dying, non-Muslim dying. So there you won't say the Muslim is Jahannami, just trying to say that the qatil will be non-Muslim, he's a Jahannami finnar. The maqtul also is his own person. He's also killing him, he's not bothered. And if the believer dies in that, for him it's shahada. And perhaps what we're seeing today, whether the world likes to hear it or not, we understand this, what we're going through also, it's one of those al-haraj, where some can say it's maut, death, we say it's qatl. That this is killing in itself. That when you hear that person going, you will say it's not death you got shahada, you have been killed. In some way or the other, killing is taking place, but in what a unique manner. That they'll take out your money also and then they'll kill you also. The same place where you're running for help, that same place is making sure, okay, so much we have to get killed this week. That number had to be there, so many died, so many got better. If all got better, then there will be no panic. For that number to be realized, there were so many people who perhaps would not have died. But because the contract was given, so many must die. Qatl has taken place, what we have understood. And whether it's going to stop or it's going to continue, it comes with like a qatl. They bring that thing upon the people. They see so many people suffering, but the person who's doing it is not bothered. The qatil is the Jahannam. The one he's killing is his own people also. He's not bothered. It's just numbers. Al-qatlu. And whatever we go in the future, we are going to see it. The purpose of the narration was that the faster time is going to move, the more you must expect things going to happen. To such an extent, when one great tabi'i who was the Qadi of Ray, he complained to Anas ibn Malik radiyallahu anhu of Hajjaj bin Yusuf. So that wording that he said to him, he said, make sabr. Because what we heard from Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is, whatever your error is, understand the next one is going to be ashar. Even worse. Normally you don't use the word ashar, you use the word shar. Shar itself is ism tafdhil. Hardly in the Arabic language they put the hamza there, ashar. But when they put it, it means even more emphasis than the word shar. Shar itself means even worse. Ashar means even worse. What was meant by that is, don't think it's going to get better. You must be ready for even harder times. But was it meant to make man scared? All these narrations, we have said it so many times, it was meant to make man prepared. So the narration I wanted to speak about, and is something to think about. Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Al-ibadatu fil haraj ka hijratin ilayya." Al-ibadatu fil haraj ka hijratin ilayya. That when you will find the error, where there will be this haraj, killing, whether you see open killing or hidden killing, which means death all over. At that time, does the believer go into his shell? And he just says, I got no lust for life anymore. And if you go, so Azadwal, you don't see it perhaps so much. You might see it to a certain extent. You'll enter the masjid, you'll see like, okay, 2 safs. But you know, there were more people who used to come, but something just happened. They went in a shell. But there are those places where you go, they will say 4 masjids, but 3 have closed from the beginning. From the beginning. He said, and the 4th masjid also, when people come, like, it's a few, it's like a dead environment. Then you'll understand this wording, al-ibadatu fil haraj. There will be those errors where there will be a lot of killing taking place. Then there will be those few of Allah selected who at that time will become more staunch in ibadah, when everybody else who was doing little will stop doing. Al-ibadatu fil haraj ka hijratin ilayya. The one who will be able to worship at such a time, he will be like the one who made hijrat to me. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, after the conquest of Makkah Mukarramah, when some Sahaba came later on, they said, we want to make hijrah. He said, now there's no hijrah left. He said, hijrah has come to an end. He said, now there's jihad, now there's niyyah, the intention that one day, if ever the need comes, I will make hijrah, but that would never be called hijratun ila Rasulillah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because Nabi Hassan now passed away. The last hijrah that would take place towards him was before the conquest of Makkah Mukarramah. After that, one door was open. If in your country ever it becomes hard to make Allah's ibadah, then go to another country, you call it hijrah. You will call it hijrah ilallah, but you will never call it hijrah to the Nabi of Allah. But this narration showed there's one hijrat which is called hijrah to Allah's Nabi. Ka hijratin ilayya, which was called al-ibadatu fil haraj. When you will see this panic in the world, then there must be that group of Allah selected in every town, that they must become more firm in ibadah when everyone becomes loose. And when everyone is not coming, they the ones going. And when no one is calling, they the ones calling. Al-ibadatu fil haraj ka hijratin ilayya. Certain friends were very open when they said that we never ourselves thought we would have done what we did in the first wave. Like we also stayed away from the masjid. So the answer was that a Muslim must never get bitten twice. We all got bitten the first time. And how everything just, people lost their minds and no one knew what to do. But this narration, how it explained it is, don't ever expect it's going to end. If it happened one time, now be ready for many more. If they could bring the masjid population to 50% of what was coming, which was hardly anything, you think they will stop? Their desire will be to bring it to 5, to bring it to 0, and then there's nothing. So if one haraj could create that result, they're not going to stop them. There will be another haraj and another haraj. Al-ibadatu fil haraj, the one who will be able to worship Allah in that condition. Ka-hijratin ilayya, as though he is making hijrat towards me. May Allah Tabarak Ta'ala make all of us make this intention, that we want to make that hijrat. And if we get the chance, then be in the forefront. Al-ibadatu fil haraj. During times like this, when panic takes place, people go in a shell. Some people sit on the internet, some people sit on the phone. A person gets sick, he just goes in hospital, he just says, put on the television, he dies in front of them. When you tell him, you don't want to make dua at this moment, he just got no lust, no shauq, no desire. That man in the hospital has to be told, Al-ibadatu fil haraj, ka hijratin ilayya. That perhaps you got your last 5 days alive in this world. He will say, but I can't even go istinja, toilet. You will explain to him that you don't need to go. Your Shariat regarded you as ma'zur, that even if your urine is coming in that bag of yours, you are not regarded as impure at the moment. So why just sit there and say, what's going to happen? Al-ibadatu fil haraj. In that condition, if you worship Allah, you are making the hijrah. If you die in that condition, you died on the journey of hijrah. And you come out alive, you made your hijrah. But people must be told in big numbers, whether you're in the hospital, whether you're in the house, you're sick, whether you're not sick but you're scared because your granny got sick. That person also goes in his shell, he just sits. No one is like going on the musalla. The sick one is not going, but he knows death is around the corner. The healthy one, he also is not going. He's just like, when you ask what's happening, they say there's just no jazba left. There's no tablighi ijtimas left. There's no jalsas left. Say, you know me, I like when things are happening then. I get josh. But now when everyone is quiet, I lost all my josh. Then you think of this narration, Al-ibadatu fil haraj, ka hijratin ilayya. That who will be ready to worship? Whether this is one of those haraj, that is a question that some will say, no, it's just happened. Others will say, but even if this is not one, that same meaning will be taken. And when we are going to see those where haraj is going to take place openly, this one is like a hidden killing. But when an open killing, are we again going to go in our shell? Everyone lock his door. Or will there be those individuals who will at that moment also walk out? And they will say, if I die going to the masjid, then I die. And if I reach the masjid alive, then I'm muhajir to the Nabi of Allah. But I will go for it. Al-ibadatu fil haraj. How hard it was to tell people, come back to the masjid. The man said, I'll come back. His wife said, don't you dare go. He never came after that. He said, you'll go masjid, you'll make me sick, I'll die. Ask the auntie, every day your maid comes. She brings more germs than your husband can ever bring. You're still alive. But in her mind, one fear was put. So now can we remove that fear? We can't. But we can say to that woman, Al-ibadatu fil haraj, that if you let your husband go to the masjid, it will be like he's a muhajir to Allah's Nabi, and you are also a muhajirah. You are making that hijrat. And what was that hijrat? That hijrat was, because one is your normal hijrat. Say times in South Africa are not so good anymore. For the sake of my children, I want to go to another country. What's a good Muslim country? Nowadays they're all coming here, so where are they going to go? But in that hijrat, there's no fear like. There's only the fear of now I'll have to close up my business. But he says, don't worry, because I got income, I did this, I did that. You still call it, what a hijrat you made. You left your family. But it's not called a hijrat to the Nabi of Allah. A hijrat to the Nabi of Allah was that hijrat where the people of Makkah Mukarramah, as they left Makkah, they knew whatever they're leaving, they're never going to get it back. But that wasn't the scary part. The scary part was on the journey, will the Quraysh find them? If they find them, they will kill them. It was called your every step is death. That was ka hijratin ilayya. Your every step, there's a chance of death. But that Sahabi made it. Saying, if I die going to Allah's Nabi. And if I survive, I'll reach Medina. We're living in that time where you tell the person, will you come back? So even if he leaves that house, that every step of his is, maybe I'll die. And when he enters the masjid, then again he's scared. And if it happens it's Jummah and the poor Imam Sahib is giving the khutbah and he's scared, then it's even bigger fear. If he sneezes, the whole majma goes like terrified. Whole majma. Kahijratin ilayya. Every step there's a fear of death. You say Mubarak to you. If you live, you have reached Medina. And you die as a muhajir. May Allah Tabarak Ta'ala make us all those muhajirs to the Nabi of Allah. Whether we're finding one haraj or we will see other haraj, things will not get easier. Every error is going to be harder. But when the Nabi of Allah mentioned it to us, he mentioned it that don't run away from it, be prepared for it. And when you find those hard errors, then just be firm. Either you die and you made it, or you live through it and you're still going to make it. May Allah Tabarak Ta'ala bless us all with the best of this world, qabr and the year after. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.